Hi, this is Anita from 5 Minutes with Art. Perhaps there's no other part of history or art history changed the world as much as the Renaissance did. In fact, when most people think about great art, they think about the Renaissance, they think about the artist as, Leonardo da Vinci, Michelangelo, Raphael, and others that were during this period of time. But there's a couple things about the Renaissance which really changed art. One of them was humanism. We've talked about humanism before. But humanism was the philosophical foundation of the Renaissance. It emphasized the value of the human being, individual experience, and the pursuit of knowledge. And this might seem kind of strange to us today in our modern world where, of course we believe in that today. But during this period of time, this was a new way of thinking. This really was a change and a shift in the world. So artists began to focus on the beauty of the human form and on statues and the tangible world itself. And this was definitely a change in art itself. Some of the defining characteristics of the Renaissance then became things as realism and naturalism, that artists sought to depict subjects as they appeared in real life. They were paying meticulous detail to the attention to detail, the study of light, of shadows, of anatomy. Leonardo da Vinci's Mona Lisa is an exemplary piece that showcases the Renaissance commitment to realism through the lifelike rendering of a subject's, the expression and the different tones that you can see on the painting itself. And that's one of the reasons why, when you look at the Mona Lisa, it's not that she's particularly pretty or beautiful, but it's that whole painting itself of her and how her expression and her smile that makes it such a great painting. There's also the perception of depth that was now in the paintings, where your painting would be flat, but you felt like you're looking into depth and seeing depth, that you would see, the perspective of Renaissance art. There was human anatomy and proportion became very important. And of course, nowhere do you see that more than Michelangelo's statue of David, that beautiful statue of that human form of Michelangelo's David statue. Light and shadow played a role that were, of course, one of the great ones is the Last Supper, where you see Christ right there in the center with the window right behind him. He's right in the center of the room and 6 apostles on either side of him. You really see that as a great example of using light and shadows and light to be able to tell the story, and how the edges would be softened in, the softening of the edges was another technique that was used. Also, fresco painting became very popular. Michelangelo's The Sistine Chapel is a great example of that. So in the Renaissance produced some of the greatest artists have ever lived. Artists that we still talk about today. Artists such as Leonardo da Vinci, Michelangelo, Raphael, and Titan. These are all the great artists of this Renaissance period. And still today, which is so interesting, I've said this many times before, but the Leonardo da Vinci's painting of the Mona Lisa is the most viewed painting of the world. And if you do Google searches and you go online and do Google searches, who are people searching for? Usually the top artists are Leonardo da Vinci's up there and Vincent van Gogh are usually 2 of the top artists that you see when you look at things like, Google Trends or where are people around the world searching or what are they looking for. It's usually Leonardo da Vinci and Van Gogh are 2 of the most important artists. And then, of course, the other artists would be Michelangelo, Raphael. So you can see that these artists in the Renaissance era, even still today, are important to us today. And I think that shows how lasting the Renaissance is. If you'd like to have a quick beginner's guide or to understand quickly a little bit more about the Renaissance, or you need to understand a bit more about the Renaissance, we have written a blog post for our Anita Louise Art website called Understanding Renaissance Art Movement, A Beginner's Guide. And in there you can find some of the information about the beginner's guide for the Renaissance, so you can understand a little bit of background about the Renaissance art movement itself. It's an era which lasted from the 14th to the 17th century. It was one of the most important eras of art that ever was. And like I've said, it's an era of art that we continue to look at today. And anyone who's studying art or art history, this is an era of art that you will study about and you will learn about, because it is such an important and essential part of our art and art history today. This is Anita from 5 Minutes with Art. Thank you so much for listening. We sure do appreciate you, our listeners, and thank you for being part of our community. Subscribe. It does make a difference. Give us a thumbs up, and we'd love to hear from you. Thank you.